time is over 3 hours, so I won't be joining any tournaments anytime soon. Or
So it looks like we're starting off here. This is standard mode, not open mode, so we are starting at the uncle's house, and we have to go through the entire castle escape segment. We don't get the choice of starting, at the sanctuary, for instance. Right off the bat, we also get bombs, which is really good to see, unless we also get bombs from the uncle. Care to explain the twist of this mode?
Sure thing, sure thing. In order to... Oh, wait a minute. We get a map check, though. Pendants at Eastern, as well as crystals on Hera and Desert. Now, while I rudely interrupted myself, the uncle will give one of a selection of offensive items. Today, it is going to be the bow, which is the fastest of the options. But other items such as the hammer, fire rod, cane of Samaria, cane of burner, as well as bombs, are valid weapons in order to complete escape with. Of course, certain weapons are more difficult than others, such as bombs require a little bit more finesse and planning. But so far, the bow is a very welcome item as well.
Yeah, and you also want to take into account the fact that bow is often a late game required item. I mean, obviously you need it to clear Eastern Palace and Palace of Darkness, but in a lot of cases, you might not see the bow for quite some time. So seeing it this early, just from the uncle, is like a godsend.
Yes, it is definitely one of those items that occasionally can be a go mode item. Now, of course, our runners already have received the bow, so we will not be looking for that anymore, as we do get underway here in the escape sequence, officially infiltrating in the castle.
Yeah, I must say, I'm a little disappointed sab0tender isn't using the cactar sprite, because I'm pretty sure that's what the cactars are called in Japanese. sab0tenders.
Okay, I'm not all too familiar with that, but I shall take your word on that, as we do see both of our runners in the boomerang chest there. We'll be receiving a small key hit for the last door in the escape sequence.
Yep, the bow is really showing its worth here. You can take pretty much everything down here out in 1 or 2 arrows, and you start with 30, so it's pretty much a cakewalk.
To answer a question in chat, yes, that has to do with the difficulty. On the easy difficulty modes, you will either get unlimited magic as well, so you can actually never run out, which is an amazing feeling. If you get the fire rod and infinite magic, you can just burn the whole of Hyrule Castle down to the ground almost. But our runners are playing the just the normal variety, so the ammunition will be limited. Of course, if they do happen to run out, they can safely save and quit, and they will respawn with a healthy supply of some new ammunition.
Yeah, and I believe that also goes for if they die as well on the escape portion.
Yes, that is also correct. There is no way to softlock yourself by running out of supplies. The ALTTPR developers made sure to put that little safety net in.
Yeah. In a previous version, I believe they were concerned about bombs, because bombs are especially easy to run out of in this escape sequence, and they were originally going to make it give you 15 bombs on normal mode, but change it to, the restocking idea that we have here.
Yes, definitely for the better as well, as that does put a little bit more of a tactical twist on a bomb escape. Unfortunately, we did not receive the bomb escape today, but at the very least, we got some bombs to check the back 3 chests of the escape sequence as well.
Yeah, unfortunately for who, I must ask, because certainly not the runners.
Did I say unfortunate? Sorry. As we do get the hammer from the escape... Wow, I'm... Sorry. So we do get the hammer from the dark room escape chest here. Wow, that really threw me off then. Either way, both of our runners making their way to the 3 chests that I mentioned earlier. Fortunately, have bombs to check that location.
Yeah. Fortunately, it's just perception bias that we got that second weapon here in Escape Vitor. Anyway, so we're on to this bomb room, which these guys were able to get bombs in the first chest in the game, so you can
It's
walk right
definitely
inside,
yeah.
basically.
And so far, a lot of 5s.
Yeah.
Only a 5 bomb upgrade and 100 rupees, which is enough to get the item from the bottle vendor, which in essence is kind of a fetch quest. So our runners will be happy enough to be able to check that one off the list immediately.
All right, so just at about 6 minutes, we're going to be ending Escape, and I don't even know if we've gotten the map yet.
I don't believe you have. Nope.
Nope.
sab0tender confirms. As we see a save and quit.
Now that's interesting.
That is indeed a very interesting route divergence. I think that sab0tender with that bow is going to opt for the South Shore and Eastern loop. Meanwhile, Yagamoth is going to take the more quote-unquote standard route of the Lost Woods and Kakariko loop.
Yeah, I can see why runners do this, you know, to shake up their route a bit. I personally would still like to do what Yagamoth is doing, still checking what Lumberjack Cave has. You're in the area, but
Yes,
they're both valid routes. And we get the hook shot here in the dam.
That is a very nice mobility item to get early on, because there are a surprising amount of items you can hookshot onto, as we find only a 5er on the Lumberjack Cave, so our runners will not be coming back for that one.
I mean, they might be pressed for cash later on.
But as we find the mushroom, a soggy wet mushroom, ugh. As Yagamoth opts to forego the heart piece there.
Yeah. So sab0tender is actually pretty low on bombs. He will have enough to actually go into the Ice Rod Cave should he choose to do that. So yeah, and the hook shot here makes quick work of these Moldorms as long as they cooperate.
Yes, those models can be quite troublesome, as we do get the 5 items here. The Ice Rod as well from the generous guy, even more rupees. This seed so far has been pretty good in the money department here.
Yep, an early Ice Rod is not something you want to take for granted, especially if we do have to go to Turtle Rock later on.
That is true. Meanwhile, Yagamoth did find the magic powder, so with the hammer as well, we can immediately check the Batcave as well in Kakariko Village.
So sab0tender is opting not to do Ice Cave or Ice Rod Cave, instead just going to do Fake Clippers. And we find the book here in Blindside as well as a Power Glove.
And
So
even more money.
That's like a desert care package right there. And Quake.
And maybe even a Maya care package. Of course, we have yet to get the Moon Pearl, which will be our final piece to the Darkwood puzzle here, as well as the necessity to get the flute, of course. But in the meantime, we have sab0tender using his fake flipper state here to check the hobo as Yagamoth continues down into the Kakariko well here. We'll be finding that Moon Pearl, opening up the Dark World.
Yeah, that's Dark World access. Now the question is, does Yagamoth go directly into the Dark World after clearing Kakariko? Or does Yagamoth, go towards the South Shore and everything? Well, we have a sword and lamp in hand as well. And a better sword.
Yaga was not happy with that first one, so...
Yeah, that makes the early Dark World a bit more palatable. And silver arrows!
Oh my god! This seed is giving our runners everything right now.
What is this seed?
My word. Of course, Yagamoth, unfortunately, running out of bombs here. We'll have to purchase some more bombs. Thankfully, though, got enough money to afford more than 10 here. Sorry?
Sorry, as chat was pointing out, that is an Aga care package as well. We
Very
do
true.
have the ability to go straight to Aghanim if we really want to, but we don't have to, thankfully.
Yes, again, unless they really want that 5 rupee, but I doubt that. Either runners will spend the about 7 minutes it takes, I believe, to get up to Aghanim 1. As we get a bottle.
Vanilla bottle, even.
Oh, that is very true. Of course, also in a very convenient spot here to immediately cross off the Sickets location.
Okay.
I am calling Gold Sword at race game.
So the thing is, I have a superstition that every time the game wants to give me Tempered Sword within like the first 15 minutes, it's not going to be very kind overall. So
No, indeed, we have yet to find any extra heart containers as well. Now, of course, this is still the early game. We are not even 15 minutes into the seed. So sab0tender will be picking up his Book of Medora as well as his gloves here.
Alright, so nothing at the magic bat. It's usually a pretty big indicator that when you get like the early hammer and powder, that something good is probably there. So I'm actually a little bit surprised, even though we do have, all that Dark World access opened up to us already. We can even clear like Eastern Palace and Palace of Darkness if we really wanted to, right this second.
Oh yeah, indeed, a very interesting assortment of items that the game has granted us here. As we do see some rubbish on the library there. Will not be coming back for those rupees. Yagamoth opting to go directly to the race game, not checking what the item is. Now this will cost him a little bit of time if there ends up not being anything. Now, of course, it will also save a little bit of time if there is something.
Okay, there's Titan's mitts.
Okay.
Titan's mitts are trash, apparently.
A very open seed so far. Of course, with that, with the Mid's Dark World access, as well as having the hammer, pretty much everything is open to our runners.
Yeah. Looks like Yagamoth isn't going to be taking the bait. He's actually going to be clearing the South Shore. We'll be picking up that ice rod sometime soon.
Yes, definitely a good idea to get your basics out of the way with, because all of these locations are Sphere 1 items, which are item locations that can be reached with only the starting equipment. And if something important is in, say, for example, the Ice Rod Cave, then you're going to be kicking yourself later for not checking that earlier.
You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking this might be a mirror in Ether Tablet situation.
Oh, that is very interesting. We do have access to the Death Mountain area if our runners... Oh no, we already have the lamp, so it is completely in sequence as well, the entirety of Death Mountain.
Yeah.
Dark Death Mountain. Wow, this is... I've never seen this kind of seed before, I can tell you that much.
Yagamoth is actually going towards desert. Doesn't have the boots, so it's possible that he'll be locked out of completing desert, but there might be something good on the ledge, or in this cave.
I mean, seeing how this seed has been so far, I'm fully expecting boots just to be here, honestly. Okay, good. I shall not be thrown onto the stake here for witchcraft. Either way, I do believe that we will see at least a dip into the Desert Palace, perhaps even a full clear if we can complete it without the boots, of course.
Yeah. I mean, it shouldn't be too hard with Tempered Sword and Silver Arrows.
Definitely not. This will be probably one of the quickest of deserts that we're going to see here from Yagamoth. As sab0tender does opt to check the item first. We'll see that yes, I do want to get that trash here.
All right, we're gonna see what we can do in Desert Palace, and that is not much.
That is indeed everything that we can do so far, because on the torch will either be the big key, which leads to a small key, or the small key itself, which leads to the big key.
So Yaga is now probably going to be doing Mini Moldorm Cave to probably Ice Rod Cave, maybe with a fake flipper in the mix as well.
I am fully expecting the fake flipper to come in as well, as we did find the moon pearl, which does allow for the Jesus walk to get activated, which does allow you to check 2 more items.
Yep, it'll get pretty much everything except for what's on Zora's Ledge. We'll be able to see what's on it, so if it's nothing important, we won't even need to come back. But yeah, being able to just clear all of that in one swoop is always nice.
That is definitely true, as we do see sab0tender here opting to make his way up the mountain here. We'll be saving the old man, getting his save and quit spot right there on the mountain, which is also a very nice option to have as well.
Mm-hmm. Yagamoth is heading into the Dark World, probably going to check Hype Cave and maybe make his way either towards Palace of Darkness or towards Dark Kakariko, Thieves Town area. You see our other crystals and pendants. Our other pendants are at Skullwoods and Swamp Palace being the green pendant. And our important crystals are Palace of Darkness and Turtle Rock. So honestly, with Palace of Darkness being an important crystal, I might want to go there before going into Village of Outcasts.
That would definitely be the best course of action here, as we cannot complete it due to the fact that Uncle gave us the bow. As in Hype Cave, we only find some money and a blue potion. While that may be helpful, not as hype.
I do like sab0tender's play here as well. All the items laid out for us kind of imply that something has to be on the mountain, whether it's in Hera, in the Ether Tablet, in Hookshot Cave, or whatever.
Definitely, it is pretty rare to be able to full clear the.
How many heart pieces was that? Sorry.
That I believe he gained 2 full hearts from that, so that must have been 1 full heart and 4 pieces of heart. Wow. Indeed, a very interesting seed so far, as we find the Lagmerang, the red boomerang here, which Yagamoth will opt to pick up, as it is a pretty useful item later on. All the way in Ganon's Tower, it has its uses.
Yeah. I'd basically pick up, the blue meringue, preferably, or the red meringue, and just forget about it until Ganon's Tower. Although it is also nice to have for menuing purposes too.
That is also true. It does fill up another spot, which if you are used to having a full inventory, then that will also come in handy, as a checkerboard inventory is not a fun time to go around, as we did see Yagamoth check the stun price pack for today, and it is only a single heart, so unfortunately not as useful, but who knows, it might save a runner's life at some point.
Alright, sab0tender, make my dream come true. Get the mirror and Ether Tablet. Oh.
Only a bundle of arrows for us today from the sky. Meanwhile, Yagamoth is going to take a dip into Palace of Darkness here.
Yeah, maybe they'll be in Hera. I'm I'm thinking something has to be in Hera, maybe.
At this point, the seed has strongly been pushing them towards the Dark World, as well as the Death Mountain area.
It looks like sab0tender has to actually go downstairs, unfortunately. And doesn't look like Palace of Darkness is bow blocked. Not that it really matters, considering that was our uncle item.
Yes, although that does give an interesting routing option. If you do get the small key, you can still opt to save that key and use it elsewhere. Yagamoth, though, decides to just go into the front door here.
Yeah. The key saving strats are less prevalent in this mode compared to, say, key sanity. But the key logic in Palace of Darkness is very interesting when you take into account the fact that certain rooms you could potentially never have to open because you would have knowledge to know that whether or not they're a small key. Like, they're like key for key rooms in that case.
Yes, meanwhile, sab0tender is setting up for the Death Warp as we get the vanilla big key. Yagamoth making use of the silver arrows there, taking care of the mimics in one fell swoop.
I always hate this conveyor belt room without boots, just because the boot strategy is completely free.
That is true, of course. The conveyor belts in general are sometimes quite annoying as they can very easily throw off either your movement or your prediction pattern of where enemies are going to be in relation to your location. Meanwhile, sab0tender making his way up towards the big chest, has the hookshot, will be able to perform the quick access. Although I do believe that is just a dungeon item.
I'm not sure, but unless I'm mistaken, I'm pretty sure Yagamoth now knows that there is something, either a map or a compass or one of the quote-unquote junk items is in that vanilla big key chest that he had actually skipped by.
Yes, I do believe... Oh, I'm not all too familiar with the routing, but I do believe that it pretty much has to... Wait, did we get all of these small keys already? I'm not sure. I haven't really been paying attention to the item counts, unfortunately. sab0tender gets into the Trolldom fight here. Has to be really careful not to fall down the middle hole. That is not a great time, because you're going down 2 floors, but sab0tender, of course, takes swift care of Moldom and gets his first crystal.
Yagamoth is setting up a nice death warp here. Fortunately, my prediction wasn't true, and Yagamoth finds the flute in the Palace of Darkness big chest. So that gives us access to the Mire area, potentially Misery Mire itself.
That is correct. We will have access to the 2 chests to the left of the Misery Mire dungeon, as well as possibly to the Mire dungeon itself, if it turns out to be Quake that's necessary for opening it. Now, we don't have the Canis Mare in order to fully complete the dungeon, but that might not stop our runners from at least having a little peek inside.
Yeah, and the knowledge, of whether or not you need to find an additional medallion is kind of priceless.
Yes, knowledge is definitely key within the randomizer, as it does allow you to make some better routing decisions.
Yep, and we're going to be seeing our first foray into Dark Death Mountain on sab0tender's side. We'll see if this entire journey was worth it. or not. We do have a medallion and the ability to potentially open Turtle Rock, but we do not yet have the Canis Mario, as you were saying. So we can't actually go inside unless we find, say, the cane in Hookshot Cave.
Hookshot Cave does have 5 items in it. 4, sorry.
Well, 5 if
Well-
you count the ledge on top. But we also don't have the mirror to get there, unfortunately. And I'm not entirely sure what's up there.
I don't believe we've seen that yet. Although, if we have, I'm sure that chat will kindly remind us what it was as we find the Ether Medallion. Almost
Okay.
vanilla here.
That might be interesting, especially if it's needed for Mire. Because I might expect Yagamoth to go visit Mire before heading up the mountain. And it is Quake to get into Turtle Rock, which both of our runners already have.
Yes, get some of that vanilla medallion requirement here as Yagamoth takes down the Helmetor King, gets another bottle with some blue potion inside, and as well as, more importantly, one of the 5-6 crystals.
Well, it looks like Hookshot Cave didn't really have much for us. We did get Ether, which could be useful in the Mire area, but outside of clearing hair, which is required, sab0tender didn't really receive much from visiting the mountain. Outside of health and stuff.
That is true. Yagamoth is still only on 4 hearts, so of course when you enter the Dark World, the enemies do a lot more damage as the vanilla game expects you to have beaten 3 dungeons. Of course, within a randomizer, you don't always need to get that pedestal. And as we have already seen, not all the pendants are in the Light World. Though we do get the flute activation here from Yagamoth. We'll be able to traverse the world quite a lot faster.
Yeah. It's always a nice item to have, even if you don't need it. Now, the question is, where does he go? Does he go to the Mire area first or to the mountain first? Yagamoth is opting to go to the mountain, which is interesting. I typically like to do Mire even if I don't have the mirror, just because it's really quick. There's 2 items, and you get some knowledge.
That is very true. Of course, we have yet to see what we actually need to get into Maya. So for all we know, we are still looking for that Bombos medallion. As well as if, for example, the Fire Rod is locked behind Ice Palace, which is one of the other uses of the Bombos medallion.
Yep, Yagamoth is actually going to Mire now. Immediately after rescuing the old man, and we'll be seeing what's inside the Mire shed, as well as this medallion, if Yagamoth actually checks it. I believe it's Ether.
Those are 2 vanilla medallions that are required for their vanilla dungeons as well. As we find the mirror.
Yeah, this is. Uh-oh.
Oh, please bear with us as we. There we go. We resolve the issue and we get the bug net.
Yeah, I think the bug net was a little bit too strong. It didn't want to be rendered. But yeah, the mirror here is great because it lets us go immediately into Checkerboard Cave. It gives us a faster way into Desert later on when we actually find the booth to clear it. And Yagamoth can also, visit some of the mirror locations. Ooh, and we even get the flippers at a Checkerboard Cave. What is this?
Now, with the acquisition of the flippers, that does mean that Swamp Palace will be open to Yagamoth, which will be 7 items due to the presence of the green pendant as well.
Yeah. It is a pendant, which kind of... It's not great. Ooh, Yagamoth takes a death to some of these cabbages here on the mountain. Fortunately, allergic to that particular brand of vegetable. But you never really want to have to go into Swamp Palace pendant, but it really seems like the seed wants you to go there right now.
Yes, of course, Swamp Palace being one of the longer dungeons to full clear. Now, on the flip side, it does have a lot of items, as I mentioned earlier. But our runners will obviously be looking to spend as little time as they need in any pendant dungeon, as they are not required to beat the goal of this seed, which is Ganon. Meanwhile, sab0tender making his way through the Palace of Darkness as Yagamoth makes his Dark World Death Mountain, or his Light World Death Mountain check here. Now, with that mirror, we'll be able to take the quick path over to the Tower of Hera as well.
Yeah, that's going to save a little bit of time. Now, we are only, 31 minutes into this seed, but can we give a little bit of a rundown of what we still need to see to clear this, to clear this seed, to get to Ganon, to get to the Triforce?
That is definitely an interesting question, because we are quite close already to our go mode. Of course, for Desert Palace, we still need to find the boost due to the torch having a required progression item. For Thieves Town, we don't need anything else. The only thing that we still need is a fire source, whether that be the Fire Rod or the Bombo's medallion, in order to get into Ice Palace. And for Maya, the Red Cane, and for Turtle Rock, the Fire Rod as well. So Bombos might not even be required.
Yep. So boots, Fire Rod, Red Cane. Done.
Now, another interesting question that might come up is, could any of these items be on the pedestal?
Fire Rod can't. Boots can. Cane also can. So our pedestal hype index is sitting at a 2 today.
Yes, of course, we still also have not found the shovel, which is always fun to find on the pedestal, as you are never sure what it will give. Now, of course, we have a lot of locations to check, so at the moment the pedestal is the furthest from a runner's mind here.
Yep. So in terms of dungeons, I don't believe either of these runners have set foot into Eastern Palace, and again, it is a pendant. We have seen Desert Palace, but it is completely locked by the boots. There is nothing but a heart piece for us there. Hera has been completed by sab0tender, and Yagamoth is in the process of completing it right now. Yagamoth has also fully cleared out Palace of Darkness. We found the flute inside. We haven't yet cracked open Swamp Palace, and I'm honestly fearing that's where our next progression is going to lie. Skull Woods, I don't believe we've seen at all. Either, Thieves Town, I don't think we've seen, which could easily have progression. Oh, sorry, let's just talk about this bomb strat for Yagamoth, or maybe just observe it because it's really cool.
It is indeed one of the coolest setups here, using one bond recoil to line yourself up pixel perfect with about 2 pixels of leeway from the edge there. And due to the way that the bomb recoil is handled within the game, you are actually unable to fall down any holes while you are being recoiled.
Yep, and just to finish off the dungeons, we do have the medallions required, or at least both of our runners will soon enough. to enter Misery Mire or Turtle Rock, but we are still waiting on that Cane of Samaria to do anything substantial in those dungeons. Now again, once Yagamoth does find Ether, both of our runners will be able to go inside Misery Mire. Whether or not that's advisable is up for debate, considering there's only 2 potential items inside, with one of them could even be, cane locked at Vitreous himself.
Honestly, for such a massive dungeon, that is quite a surprising little amount of unique items.
Yep.
Now,
And
of course,
sorry.
Now, of course, on the flip side, the highest density of items is unfortunately that dreaded Swamp Palace, and honestly, the amount of open locations are dwindling pretty fast. So, I do think it's going to come down to whoever goes into Swamp first.
Yep. Honestly, I think these runners are probably going to go to Thieves Town first before heading into Swamp, even though the items are really, really pointing towards Swamp Palace right now.
Yes, of course, following the breadcrumbs of the seed is also not always the best course of action, as they can be misleading sometimes. But only time will tell, as sab0tender is making his way into the King Helmsor fight here with the silver arrows. The second phase will not be any trouble, but for the first phase, having quite a low amount of hearts there, has to be careful not to take any hugs from King Helma here.
That was very good Helmosaur fight so far. Cool. And even though we got pushed into the wall, it gave sab0tender the perfect opportunity to let one silver arrow right into the family jewel. So now that sab0tender has the flutes, the logical assumption to make is that he'll probably go activate it and then immediately go into the mire area, and he will be fully caught up on items at that point, because he's gonna get the mirror and then he's gonna go directly into Checkerboard Cave and get the flippers. So honestly, like, these runners are pretty close.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, within a randomizer race, it is always pretty tough telling who is explicitly in the lead, because the lead can change at any moment due to either of these runners choosing to opt an out-of-the-way item location, or just choosing the correct dungeons to dip into.
Now, let me pose you a question. Does sab0tender go into Misery Mire?
At this point, I think I would pass it up due to the fact that one of the items could be locked behind the cane. And I mean, if it is there, then that'd be very unfortunate. But to spend all that time for 1, maybe 2 items, I don't think it is worth it.
I think I'd go for it, honestly.
Of course, within the randomizer, there is no such thing as a bad play. Certain plays are... Oh dear. Anyway,
Sorry.
Certain plays are more favorable than others, is what I was going to say. Either way, tell your...
I was just going to say that sab0tender is opting to go directly into the Thieves Town area instead of fluting to Misery Mire. So the longer sab0tender puts that off, I think the more Yagamoth has an advantage, unless Thieves Town has some progression that doesn't lead sab0tender off in the potentially wrong direction.
Meanwhile, Yagamoth getting the information on the Turtle Rock medallion. Interesting to see where he will flee to. And it looks like he is also going to opt to do the Village of the Outcasts, and by extension, dip into the Skullwoods dungeon or the Thieves' Town dungeon.
Yep, we do know we have to clear out Thieves' Town, so I don't think there's any reason to skip it if you're already in the area. And Yagamoth is actually going to be checking Skull Woods despite not yet having the Fire Rod, which I don't disagree with. Maybe in a seed that has been a bit more generous with items like this, I think it's probably safer to avoid going into Skull Woods until you actually can clear it, but I don't disagree with this play.
Definitely, Skullwoods being again one of the least lucrative dungeons, and I believe 2 unique items. But for all we know, the Fire Rod could be in here, as it is also in the vanilla game.
We actually know that there's no Fire Rod in here. I'm pretty sure. Yagamoth found 2 items, so he's just going to grab the key from this chest to actually get out without having to save and quit, because otherwise there's no way out. Like, you can't just mirror out at this point. I mean,
that is true due to the fact that he did fall into the dungeon. Mirroring would only put him at the spot where he dropped in from, and of course Yagamoth does not want to save and quit, as that would only take more time to get back here. Now, one interesting thing to note, the chest that Yagamoth picked up with the key will always have a small key due to the fact that you can drop into that exact room, and if there were no key in there, then you'd essentially be soft locked, so the developers made it so that you can always get out of that room.
yeah, even in Key Sanity, which is interesting because most of the time you'll have like a key anyway, but I guess it just covers the case where you won't have the key.
Meanwhile, we do see sab0tender making his way through the Gargoyle's lair as Yagamoth checks out the remainder of the Village of the Outcasts.
Yep, so Yagamoth is slightly ahead in progression and checks. He does have the mirror and the flippers from the mire area. sab0tender has quite a bit of an advantage in this dungeon, so I honestly would put them as pretty much even. Now,
yes, at this point, they are retracing each other's steps, so it'll be interesting to see what our runners were up to go for next. Of course, Yagamoth has already dipped into Skullwoods, knows that there's nothing left there.
yeah, and sab0tender could potentially just skip out on Skullwoods until he has the Fire Rod or is otherwise in go mode, or just, never have to go there because it's a pendant.
Oh, I completely forgot about that one.
Nah, I just start a sentence and then realize that it's a pendant, and then just finish it, and so I don't look stupid. But we do have a key locked inside of a big chest here. Ooh. In Thieves' Town, so we don't even need to check that chest.
That is indeed true, which is a new occurrence in the randomizer due to the fact that if that key is in there, no other locations are excluded. Meanwhile, though, sab0tender is making his way into the Blightfinder. Unfortunately, gets a little bit off script, and what I mean by that is this fight can be the exact same every single time. If you hit blind at certain points during his movement animation, he will do the exact same thing every time.
Yep. So one thing to say about that chest is I'm pretty sure, not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that if there is a small key in that chest, you need the hammer to beat this dungeon, because the game assumes you use keys in the weirdest way possible. So it assumes you could potentially pick up the key from that bouncy spike room, go downstairs, open the door to the big chest, and then you're kind of screwed unless you have the hammer.
Oh, really? That is very interesting. I had not thought of that.
Oh, yeah. Chad is pointing out you need the hammer regardless. Wait, that doesn't sound true at all.
Wait, that is only if... No. What? I'm... Chat, you're so confusing sometimes. Either way, sab0tender, slowly pegging his way down to Hammerpack Cave, finds a full heart container, which is welcome, although by no means required, unfortunately, as Yagamoth escorts the maiden.
Now, one benefit Yagamoth is going to have is that he does have the mirror, and will be able to check the dwarves, the purple chest, cave south of the Haunted Grove. I don't even think Yagamoth has checked Stump Kid, unless he has.
I don't believe he has.
Yeah, I think he just went over to Palace of Darkness, which was a good idea. But Yagamoth does have an advantage here in the form of that mirror.
Now, as we get a map check again, sab0tender making sure to know where he needs to go, as we have quite a lot of digs actually. There we go, 50 rupees. And I hope he didn't blink because blind's already down on Yagamoth's side. That is as textbook as a blind fight can get. Meanwhile, sab0tender will be making use of his Mitzvah and is going to take the Jeremiah the Bullfrog on a world tour here. We'll be checking out some of these mirror Never mind, he does not have the mirror. We'll be at least going to check the Stump Kid.
Yep, and I believe sab0tender has already, done Palace of Darkness and the Pyramid. Not sure if we've seen Catfish yet.
Neither
on either side. Yeah. But we do have the flute in hand, so sab0tender isn't going to be losing much time not having the mirror here. Now, the difference is if the purple chest has something important and Yagamoth, gets it, that might be good for Yagamoth.
Yes, that would definitely give Yaga the slight advantage of having the mirror.
Now, unfortunately for Yagamoth, I think he's going to fall into the trap of grabbing the purple chest before doing the dig game. Unless he did already do it. We missed it. I don't think he did, though.
I don't recall seeing it, although I might have missed it during sab0tender's expedition through the Dark World.
Yeah.
Either way, we see sab0tender taking a dip into the Desert Palace. Of course, we know that he cannot complete it yet due to still no boots.
Yeah, this was something Yagamoth had done a lot earlier, so it's really... I don't know really what to call it. While Yagamoth does get the Bombo surrounding out all the medallions in the game. I don't know what to call it, but it's essentially like debt you have compared to another racer in terms of places they've checked that you haven't checked. Whereas, like they have the same amount of crystals and everything. But yeah, it's a bit of debt that sab0tender is working off right now.
Yes, definitely retracing. Yaga steps it as sab0tender makes use of the secondary exit here that leads out to the overworld, being able to check the Aegina's cave as well. Meanwhile, Yagamoth, with that Bombo's medallion, now has access to the entirety of Ice Palace as well.
Yep. Now the question is, do you go there before Swamp Palace? And the answer is probably. Even though the seed has been screaming Swamp Palace, these
Yes,
runners are probably going to bank on ice first, because you have to go there anyway.
yes, in the randomizer, it is always a good idea to go ahead and complete dungeons that are completable with your current equipment, rather than dive into pendant dungeons. Of course, it's not the only play to be made, as for all we know, everything we need is in Swamp Palace, but we'll just have to see where our runners decide to go here. Meanwhile, Yagamoth is going to make use of his mirror here and check the Bombos tablet as well. sab0tender gets his mirror at long last.
Yep, and we will be seeing the flippers here in short order as well. Oh, there are boots.
The boots, and what a location to get them as well, right next to Desert.
So that is one fewer item we need, and one fewer item that could potentially be on the pedestal. And Yagamoth opting to just go directly into Desert, it looks like. I mean, why not at this point? Oh, no, never mind, we're going to be seeing... Oh, no, we're going to see Desert.
Throwing us for a bit of a loop. It does look like he is going to use the mirror to get into the back part of Desert, as the book animation does take a little bit of time.
Yep. Gonna be seeing this mushroom that we've had for quite some time. I don't believe Yagamoth has turned it in, so this is...
Ooh, that is true as well, yeah.
This could potentially be big. It is not.
And it is. Oh, wait. Not everybody loves the blue boomerang?
I mean, I like it better than the red one.
Either way, at any rate, none of the boomerangs are, of course, required to beat the game. They are just, I wouldn't say a novelty item, but they're very nice to have in certain situations. sab0tender is going to check the Icewood Cave, which I don't believe Yagamoth has checked either, unless I am completely mistaken. Now, while sab0tender is in the area, we might even see an Ice Palace clear as well.
Yep. So nothing of note was in Desert Palace. We did find a bee in a bottle. I guess that is kind of noteworthy, although it is our third, or is that our fourth bottle?
Yeah, all bottles are accounted for. As we do see sab0tender going to take on Eastern there.
Yeah, or at least checking what's in Sahasrara's hut. Since I don't think either of our runners have been here either.
Haven't they?
The seed has been so generous with items that a lot of locations that you'd expect to be checked just went by the wayside.
sab0tender using his last bomb here, making sure not to miss that one. We're receiving some love and explosions, or rather more carrying capacity for explosions.
Ooh, Yagamoth missing the first silver arrow, unfortunately making this at least a 2-cycle landmail. Does actually cap it off at 2 cycles though, finishes off the dungeon. So one fewer crystal remains. Still need a couple items to beat this seed.
Yes, unfortunately, the pedestal is not required for this seed due to the fact that Skullwoods is a pendant.
Yeah. I was gonna say, it looked like sab0tender was going into Ice Palace without any bombs, but it looks like he's at least gonna be checking the Zora area first.
Oh no, apologies. We still have the cane for potential pedestal. My apologies. As Yagamoth does turn in his soggy mushroom at.
My
Oh,
goodness.
oh, that is huge.
That is absolutely massive for sab0tender. Now, Yagamoth is potentially in the area to check Zora, but it looks like he's going directly
Oh,
into Ice
no.
Palace instead.
Now,
So-
this is not a really big deal due to Yagamoth having the Bomber's Medallion will be able to get anywhere within this dungeon, but the Fire Rod is about 1,000,000 times more versatile.
So, do you know what that means for this seed? Just,
That the pedestal is open right now.
Yep.
That is a very beautiful prospect here.
Yep.
Of course,
Pedestals,
our runners. Sorry.
we need one item, and it's the Cane of Samaria.
Wow,
So
this has
where's-
been
Oh, sorry.
a very fast seed so far. Ooh.
Having the red cane as go mode item is honestly not too bad, especially because you can't get into Turtle Rock without it.
Yes, definitely. I would take a Gomwood Red Cane over a Laser Bridge Fire Rod any day, or Ice Rod.
Yeah, it looks like both of our runners are in the same dungeon now. sab0tender is a little bit behind. Yagamoth has a bit of an advantage, but again, sab0tender does have that fire rod. We'll be able to have a much easier time. I mean, not really. I mean, it's pretty easy with Tempered Sword, let's be real.
Definitely. Of course, we already had that about 5 minutes. No, not 5 minutes. 10 minutes into the seed, all the way back in Kakariko here, as we do see the Ice Balance Bomb Jump from Yagamoth. Of course, not having the Cane of Samaria, this is the more optimal play, as it does allow you to push the block down without having to loop around the dungeon. I think 3 times in the vanilla game. The game wants you to loop back on this entire dungeon 3 times, which is just like
Fun. It's fun.
sure, we'll go with that. Either way, coming up on the big chest here, I don't believe we have found the big key yet for Ice Palace.
We did see a small key. Looks like Yagamoth is going to opt to do a bomb jump. Having the small key lets you just walk upstairs and go to the east side of the dungeon, but this is an idea too. He's going to use it to open this door down here to get to the Nightmare chest. The iced tea chest.
That one chest with the 2 berries that nobody wants to go through. Anyway, for us today, it has the big key, which in theory is not required to beat the dungeon, but for all we know, the cane is in the big chest, and Yagamoth showing great awareness of this game using the powder on a hidden bunny beam to in order to heal up his life. sab0tender getting through the Ice Palace bomb jump with this last bomb indeed. Be interesting to see. sab0tender does opt to forgo the bomb jump as we continue to see both of these runners making their way through this dungeon here. So far, not much of anything. Of course, with only one item left to find, it is really going to come down to just one location. As we do find it here in the Ice Palace here. Now, we are in no mode, but unfortunately Yagamoth still needs to find that fire rod. Meantime though, sab0tender is also not going to be in go mode, unfortunately. Still has yet to visit the Bombos tablet, I believe, that held the boot in order to complete the Desert Palace. So this race is very much still on, as both of our runners are only one item away from their respective go mode, fire rod and boots.
Well, fortunately for anybody hoping for pedestal hype, this is a fairly straightforward seed, honestly, and Swamp Palace, man. I was hoping, but
yeah, fortunately it will turn in the runner's favor, as they won't even have to set foot inside, as we are going to see a tempered sword, textbook, cold step fight here, pretty easy. Slice and dice is the cotton candy boss here for yet another crystal. Meanwhile, sab0tender making his way through the ice tea room, gets his big key.
now the thing is, both of these runners have an item that's not in a dungeon. It's not anywhere near where they might want to be. So it really... Okay, so it looks like Yagamoth is actually going to be checking... Oh my goodness, going to be checking Zora here.
Yes, of course, sitting at a comfortably 1500 here, has so far put off the Zora area for quite some time here. We'll be happy to find this item here.
I'm a bit surprised Yagamoth is doing this instead of just going directly into, you know, Misery Mire. But it's gonna pay off greatly.
It's going to pay off big time indeed.
It's gonna be our first runner in go mode at about 1 hour and 3 minutes in.
It does look like Yagamoth is... Oh, never mind. He's just taking a different path, but will be skipping Zora. Zora is not going to get his payment today, as Yagamoth enters go mode just shy of 1 hour and 3 minutes.
Wow, that's a pretty nice go mode, especially when you only have 2 more dungeons to go.
Yeah, and especially if one of them is the Turtle Rock dungeon, which is usually safe for last due to the fact that after you get the 7th crystal, you will move on to Ganon's Tower, which is already on Dark Death Mountain. So that'll just be a quick run over from Turtle Rock. Now the question is, will we get to see a Bertos?
I don't believe he can. I think it's stuck on the ledge there.
I think that is just out of bounds there for our Moogle to pick it up. Also,
okay. We at least get the bird crush.
How rude!
You can't just let it sit there.
Do frozen enemies unfreeze over time?
I don't think they do.
Then I suppose it's better to put it out of his misery.
Yeah, and it clashes with its core. You know, all those weird plant things and the pedestal. Anyway.
Alrighty, Yagamoth hoping for the Godmire here, for the big key on the bridge here. Now, I hope sab0tender is not going to do what I think he's going to do.
I mean, going into Turtle Rock isn't a bad idea. The boots could very easily be in here. Go-moding it isn't that much faster than not, especially if you need a key on the laser bridge. So,
Yeah,
I
I
think
guess
it's a solid play, knowing what we know.
Yes, I may or may not have accidentally confused it with a previous seed where Turtle Rock was a pendant. My apology. Either way, we did get the Godmire today, the big key on the bridge here.
Yeah, it always feels nice getting that fast Misery Mire, the God Mire as it's called. Being able to just rush through it without even needing to mess with the crystal switches or anything.
Yes, luckily Yagamoth remembers that he does not have to run up to hit that switch, which I've done on multiple occasions, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'm going back now.
And we do have silver arrows in hand and the bow to launch them, so this boss is gonna be, I'm gonna say, really easy. Not entirely sure what Yagamoth is doing.
Ooh, unfortunately, sab0tender taking an unfortunate death there. Does opt to dive right back in.
At least it was fairly early on, and Yagamoth opting to put that bug net to use and catch a fairy.
Very heads up play there, respawning the anti-fairy. As Vitrius is down for the count. Only 2 silver arrows to the big eye, 1 silver arrow per small eye. No sweat at all. Another textbook Vitrius fight, and as well as Yagamoth's second to last crystal. Meanwhile, sab0tender taking another stab at the room that he died.
Yep, we get our half magic, which is nice. I mean, Yagamoth is going to be getting that when he visits Turtle Rock in a minute or two. But it's definitely good for both runners to have going into Ganon's Tower.
That is true, as well as the big key for the dungeon. Yagamoth opting to go through the east side of the mountain there. We'll be taking the Paradox Cave and using. Wait, did Yagamoth already open Turtle Rock? I don't believe he has, actually.
Nope, he just saw it and didn't go inside.
So that completely derails my thought train there. Man, this game can be very confusing sometimes, okay?
Yeah. Fortunately for sab0tender, Yagamoth is about to enter Turtle Rock on his last crystal, whereas sab0tender still needs to find the boots for Desert Palace. He also has Misery Mire to do or to contend with as well, but he can actually complete that. Problem is we know as viewers and commentators that the boots he so desperately needs are actually very near Swamp Palace. Not inside, but on the Bombos tablet. just a hop, skip, and a jump away.
Yes, definitely one of the more trolley item locations for an item to be is where it is needed most, which with most items is their vanilla location, but with the boots being needed for desert, I doubt that that sab0tender will be looking at the desert area for his answer, unfortunately. As Yagamoth is about to upgrade his magic here. Meanwhile, sab0tender mirroring to the Mimic Cave here. Though only a vanilla piece of heart today.
Oh well. Can't win them all. So Yagamoth is actually on pace for a sub 130, which is blazing fast as far as Randomizer is concerned.
Definitely, of course, sab0tender's time is also nothing to sneeze at. Both of these runners are extremely talented in playing this randomizer, of course. As oh wow, I've not seen that strat before. Fortunately, though, it does not work out the way that he intended that to.
Yeah, Yagamoth does have a fairy that he specifically caught in Misery Mire, so we won't be worrying too much about taking a death, but he might want to be a bit more cautious with his HP, maybe powdering one of these many anti-fairies in this dungeon.
Yes, of course. The later dungeons often flagged as the more difficult ones. But if you have powder, especially Turtle Rock becomes actually one of the easiest, as we can see here a big group of anti-fairies here.
Yep, it just requires a bit of additional game knowledge that you might not otherwise have.
Meanwhile, we are going to see a laser bridge here from sab0tender. Now, this is technically outside of logic due to us not having either the mirror shield or an invincibility item.
Yep, and sab0tender is going to open up this safety exit. Only has 2 hearts, so it's really good, especially if you don't have the boots to do the easy boot clips. Quote unquote easy, but
Yes, definitely a great choice opting for that door, as we are about to see why. Because if you die within a dungeon, if you save and continue, you will start from the last door that you entered the dungeon from. Now, if you bomb that wall and go outside and back in, you have technically left the dungeon, so the game will put your spawn point right there, which is pretty nice for the laser bridge.
I like this cane strat Yagamoth just used. He placed the block on top of the pegs and was able to just use the iframes gotten by having the pegs like shoot out from under you to get through the room really quickly. sab0tender is unfortunately having a bit of trouble in this room. Took a few deaths here on Laser Bridge. We do have the powder, so sab0tender will be able to powder up and restore all that lost health.
Yes, as we are about to see what difference the boots can make here in terms of the laser skip. Of course, Yagamoth's still looking for a small key, and it is, of course, in the last chest of Laser Bridge, as it usually is. Oop, having a bit of a skirmish with this Hana Beetle here, as sab0tender is going to beat Yagamoth to Trinex.
Yeah, but Yagamoth has made up incredible time throughout this dungeon, being able to skip certain aspects of it, and also having the boots. And through a bit better execution, and also not taking some deaths. But with Tempered Sword and Half Magic in hand, Trinex doesn't really pose that much of a threat. As long as you can avoid the necks, you should be fine. We are going into the second phase here of Trinex here in short order. Once this laggy explosion ceases, sab0tender will be able to finish off Trinex with a few slashes and spins. Yagamoth is already in the fight, looking for a quick kill, but I don't know if it's possible without the Butter Sword.
That is correct. It is actually impossible to get the zero cycle, but it does allow you to to get into the second phase a little bit quicker if executed perfectly.
So even though this isn't the Speed Gaming channels and there is no bot to do so, Yagamoth is picking up his 7th crystal, which means that he will be entering Ganon's Tower soon. Would you like to explain to the viewers at home what that means?
Gladly, that means that we are still short one item in order to complete this seed. In the Tower of Ganon, there are 22 locations that have the possibility of containing the big key, which will, of course, allow you to move upstairs and onto Ganon. Now, we play a little game here in that we predict where the key is going to be. So, I'd be honored if you'd give me your prediction for this match.
Mine? I think it's gonna be 8. What about you?
8. I'm going to seeing as we had the Godmire, I'm hoping for the God Tower. So I'm going to say chest number 1.
Just number 1? That's pretty good. So we'll see. There is no bot to do the game. We'll just have to keep track of it on our own. And sab0tender, unfortunately, going in the wrong direction. I think this is a good play to check this location. Oh
well. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. As I've said, due to the presence of Godmire, we have the God Tower as well. Vicky on the left, Smokey on the right. No time wasted at all here as sab0tender picks up his blue mail. Wow.
That's uncanny.
This has been an amazing ride so far. Oh my word.
We do see our first mail upgrade inside the pyramid. While sab0tender is opting to head inside of Misery Mire. It's not good, which is kind of sad because didn't we get the Godmire, as you said?
Yes, unfortunately, is not going to make very good use of it, unless, of course, by some miraculous way he figured out where the boots are. But unfortunately, we will most likely see at least a partial full clear from Misery Mire, if not a complete full clear. Meanwhile, Yagamoth making quick work of the gauntlet here, of course, having the level 3 sword as well as silver arrows. No trouble at all with any of these rooms, as most enemies will die in one hit regardless.
Yeah. So sab0tender... Don't believe sab0tender has actually set foot in Skull Woods. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't recall seeing it on the left side, yeah. Wow, Yagamoth redeeming himself does get the 1 cycle here on the refight.
Yeah, so issue here is sab0tender has 3 pendant dungeons to visit. Not a whole lot of overworld that was left unchecked. But yeah, 3 pendant dungeons to visit. I think Skull Woods is probably the lowest hanging fruit here, so hopefully he decides to go there and decides to visit the Bombos tablets beforehand. And it looks like sab0tender is actually opting to go straight to Vitreous, while Yagamoth is about to head into the penultimate floor of Ganon's Tower.
As we find the shovel in Misery Mire.
Oof.
Now, of course, we know that it is not going to be anything of importance. But, of course, sab0tender and Yagamoth are kept in complete seclusion. They are not allowed to have any contact or look at each other's streams as to make these races as fair as possible, of course.
Yagamoth is powdering up here, able to max out his hearts right before Moldorm 2.
Definitely not a bad choice as we get an immediate bop here from Trolldom 2, living up to his trolly name as well. But without fear, Yagamoth right back in the fight. Ooh. Using dash strats to finish off the worm here for a second time. Does opt to skip the final chest of the game. Of course, at this point, not much that would help our runners besides maybe a mail upgrade. And I suppose having the golden sword for the Ganon fight is nice, but ultimately it is not that much of a time save as Yagamoth enters the Aghanim 2 fight.
Yeah, let's see if we can get any nice triples here. And we get a triple right off the bat.
Ooh, very nice. Definitely on track for a very quick... Oh, unfortunately, we do get a blue ball. Two of them, in fact. Now, thankfully, both our runners are on the exact same RNG seed, which is set in stone when the seed is generated. So neither of our runners are going to lose nor gain time by just RNG.
Yep, and if Yaga plays his cards right, this is actually sub 124, I believe, or 25.
Yes, indeed. With Tempered Sword and Half Magic, I doubt that would be any trouble for Yagamoth here. As we do see sab0tender making his way up to the Victory's boss room. Of course, also with those silver arrows in hand, we'll be able to make quick work of the eyeballs.
Yep, and once again, sab0tender does need to, at some point, visit that Lonely Bombos tablet to complete this seed. Hopefully, he'll be in the area soon enough. While we are about to enter the third phase of Ganon.
Definitely, Yagamoth only on one heart. Will have to be careful. Still does have that fairy, I believe, that he picked up all the way back in Maya. So still have that as a safety net. Meanwhile, sab0tender takes care of the Victory's Eye here. We'll be receiving his second to last crystal, only now looking for the boots rather, on that Bombos tablet.
Yep, Yaga does not get the torch glitch, not that it really matters when you have silver arrows. Is actually going to get a nice double here to finish off Ganon.
And there we go, clutches it out with the one heart here. Get your GG's ready in chat, guys. sab0tender is going back into Maya to check the remainder of the chests here.
Yep. And Yagamoth finishes the seed with a speed racing TV time of 1:23:26. GG's to Yagamoth.
Yes, indeed, very fast seed. Very fast seed today.
We will see if Yagamoth wants to come in for an interview.
Please bear with us as we are trying to get him here for that post-race interview. It'll be interesting to get his thoughts on this very generous seed as well.
Looks like he's in the waiting room, so we can pull him in now.
Hello. Yagamoth. GG's.
GG, good morning.
Good morning. So, how about that seed? That were a lot of items really fast as well.
Yes, I actually really wanted to see some heart sometime. Kind of started regretting not picking up that piece of heart in the woods.
Yeah, it did end up being quite a little bit short of the healthy hearts, but nonetheless, you did an amazing job on your journey through the Hyrulean world there.
Thank you. I feel like I got kind of lucky again, although I did have a clear goal of getting to Bombos tablet, and that did end up paying off.
Yes, unfortunately, sab0tender is still yet to visit that Bombos tablet, which will be his go mode, as he is still looking for the boots.
That's really unfortunate. If boots are your go mode, that means you've been walking around the entire time without them.
So just about the boots and go mode. Fire Rod was your go mode item, and if of course you'll remember you found it, at Zora. I guess my question is, what caused you to go to Zora instead of going directly to Misery Mire?
Basically, that was kind of my plan the entire time, just kind of complete Ice Palace, and then if I get both items, I'm immediately going over to whatever is next, in this case, Mr. Meyer. In the other case, my plan would have been to just check the Zora area. I actually did not even plan on visiting Zora himself, just kind of a quick check on those four locations. The island I never actually looked at, and then the waterfall and also ledge. If it was at Zora, I would have had a bad time there.
You did have the money for Zora, though.
Yeah, but I don't have the time for Zora.
Okay. So, yeah, it was really straightforward seed. I mean, having a few items slightly out of the way was kind of potentially trolly, but we did have the ability to hop directly into the Dark World right away. Um, were you, I guess, a bit worried about heading directly into the Dark World after Kakariko?
Yeah, well, we still had 3 hearts at that point, so I wanted to at least check the rest of the light world, which should have at least yielded some hearts, but not really.
Yeah, it's definitely a good idea if you feel vulnerable going into Dark World to actually just clear out light worlds. Um, so in terms of, I guess, progression or like overworld checks and everything, and pendant dungeon checks, I believe before this final death march towards the end, you were the only person to actually visit a pendant dungeon. And there were so many places over the map that we didn't see for quite some time. Some places that were pretty early checks, like Sahasrala's Hut. Were you worried about leaving a lot of those places behind? Is that why maybe you went to Zora?
Generally speaking, I'm actually more of a dungeon diver type person, so I like just completing dungeons if I can, except if they're pendants, then I try to do as efficient checks as possible, and eventually going to, as in at the beginning of those checks, as in of a sequence, going into a dungeon where I get pendant, or at the end of it.
Okay.
Did the prospect of the Swamp Palace being open tempt you at all due to the presence of those 7 items, as it was the green pen? Did that ever cross your mind to go in there as well?
It did cross my mind, but I still had Ice Palace that I could completely clear thanks to Bomb Boss, so I wanted to do that first and then look from there on ahead. The thing is, it did kind of really cross my mind because I found Mirror, I found Flippers just kind of along the way, and it is right there. But at the same time, it's also one of the easier dungeons to get to quickly. So I definitely wanted to clear out Ice Palace first.
Yeah, I definitely don't blame you for going to Ice for Swamp Palace. Let's see. Going directly into Desert Palace after finding the boots is interesting as well. We knew there were only one more item left in that dungeon.
Indeed.
Did you just want to get it out of the way? I mean, you did have silver arrows and everything.
Yeah, that's basically the basic concept. Desert Palace is not going to get any faster anytime soon, so I might as well do it right now. And there's one more item to get there, and if it's just the one item I'm looking for, then that would be, well, a lot more efficient than anything else.
Okay. Yeah, your routing was very efficient overall. Like, doing Zora after Ice Palace is something you don't see a lot of people do, mainly because they don't have that luxury. but yeah, just being able to mirror out of the Dark World after Ice Palace and just taking the Whirlpool, that's it's one of those things that it just saves a little bit of time, and saving a little bit of time over several instances across a seed is how a lot of good runners become great runners.
Indeed, it's basically, I was actually starting to get really worried because in the beginning, because I ended up just kind of completely skipping most of Thieves Town and the area around it, because I felt like if I get enough things, I could potentially just ignore the entirety of the overworld, but well, that didn't happen. But thankfully, that also helped me eventually get to the Bombos tablet. If I had more items, I would have dungeon knifed first before going to do the overworld in the Dark World. I kind of like skipping or waiting on that for way longer, but usually I go at least to Thieves Town and the surrounding area first.
Yeah. Both of you skipped out on the Thieves Town area for quite some time. It is always interesting seeing certain locations that you usually see earlier on happen like way later than you'd expect.
As in hearts was definitely a concern. I still only had like, what was it, 4 hearts after completing Palace of Darkness?
I believe it was 5, but it was indeed a very low number.
Yeah, I figured Death Mountain would be way easier to clear at that point.
So, oh, sorry.
Talking about clearing, it does look like sab0tender did opt to check out the swamp paths before checking Overworld, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad idea. There are 7 items in here, but that one item that's nearby is what he really needs. Just, I guess, a bit of analysis. I think the biggest thing that won you this race was the fact that you went to Misery Mire shortly after activating the flute, which led you to the mirror. And sab0tender did not have the mirror when he decided to check out the dwarves. So you were able to get the dwarves, the purple chests, and carry it down to that area, and grab the boots. Whereas sab0tender did not. I don't think sab0tender even checked the purple chest at this point.
I see. My main reasoning why I even went over to Misery Mire area first is because I wanted to check which medallion it was. That was just kind of somewhat convenient that the mirror happened to be there too.
Yeah. I was talking at least about how, it's definitely a good check. At least I think it's a good check to go to Misery Mire even if you don't have the mirror. In this case, it was a great check because it had the mirror. But, having that knowledge is very important, especially in a seed that has given you items so, quickly. Like, you don't necessarily... If you don't know what medallions you need and you're potentially in go mode, that can ruin your day.
Yes, indeed. I've had that happen before, so I figured since there's 2 items right there as well, might as well check it first. Which is also why I ended up saving the old man, then immediately fluted away, because I wanted to check Death Mountain next, and then I had the save point for Death Mountain immediately available.
Any other thoughts on the seed? that you'd like to share?
That was probably the least amount of hearts I've had for such a long time. That's kind of crazy, but interesting.
Yeah. The hallmark of a true Jet Seed is you get all the major items, but you can't get the hearts because the major items are taking the place of all your hearts.
Yeah, that's scary sometimes, but it worked out.
Yes, definitely. Although the heart count was low, all of your boss fights were pretty much textbook. I did see you practicing quite a funny strat on the Vitreous fight. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see that today, but nonetheless, pretty much all of your boss fights were perfect.
Yeah, sometimes that happens, if I'm lucky. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for commentating and also tracking and restreaming, guys. That is really highly appreciated and a lot of work. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So I guess we'll probably just check and see what sab0tender does after this dungeon. I'd like to say, good game, Yagamoth, and for an amazing time. And I hope you do well in the rest of this tournament.
Thank you.
All right. So, sab0tender is now about to head into the Argus fight. It's going to be pretty easy, but unfortunately, we know what he doesn't, and that it's futile.
Yes, unfortunately, it will not hold the key to the rest of his seed here.
But
sorry.
sab0tender will be in the area, and unless he's forgotten about Bumbo's tablet, it's the perfect opportunity to actually go and visit it.
That is true. So it pretty much just hoping that he still remembers that he has yet to check the Bumbo's tablet, of course, and otherwise it'll be until he brings the purple chest to the. I don't even know what that guy's called, to the chest lockpicker, I believe, in its lore-wise.
Retired thief, I think, is what he's called or something.
Something like that. Anyway, yeah, it is looking pretty dire if he if he did indeed forget about the Bumbo's tablet.
Yeah, I have faith that he's going to be visiting it soon enough. I think going into Swamp was a calculated move. And it does look like the big key, unless I missed it, is locked inside the big chest. But we do get the green pendant. That might cause.
Yeah, that might sway him to hope for that vanilla.
Ooh. So sab0tender is actually going into the light world, probably to turn in the green pendant. Now, we know that Eastern Palace is a pendant, and neither of these runners have touched it. So he's going to be in the vicinity of Eastern Palace, and it looks like he's actually going to be going inside first.
Definitely not a bad choice.
Yeah, considering... Oh, sorry. Considering sab0tender's... Or considering sab0tender knows Yagamoth has already finished with 123, he might think that the boots were in a very early game location, which I don't think is a bad thing to think.
Oh no, definitely. If your opponent is already finished before the 1.5 hour mark, that does mean that you either missed something that you completely forgot about, or something that was so early on that you accidentally skipped it.
Yeah, this is actually the first time we're seeing Eastern Palace in this seed. I mean, it's not that we don't actually have to be here, as we know, but it is interesting seeing it almost 140, the first foray into Eastern Palace.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the more common dungeons to do at the start of the game due to being available pretty much immediately. Now,
Yeah,
of course,
sorry.
of course, only 3 items, but nonetheless, if there did happen to be an item in here, then it always feels a little bit bad for the runner here that he skipped the overall location.
Yeah, it's always a calculated risk you're taking if you skip out on early game locations like this. Oh, and we get our
Oh.
butter sword in the
Wow.
palace, or in the Eastern Palace big chest. Cannon is going to be a breeze now.
Yes, the gold sword definitely makes the rest of the game pretty much easy mode, as a lot of stuff just dies instantly at the sight of butter.
Now I'm wondering, as mentioned, maybe sab0tender, it does think that the boots were like a very early on item. Like, would that, if he didn't see that done in the race, if he would have actually checked the Bombos tablet?
That
Looks like
is a very interesting point.
Yeah, it looks like sab0tender opting to not even bother with going towards Armos, which we know is a good idea, but it could very easily be a master boot situation. But again, sab0tender probably knows that you're not going to be finishing a seed in 123 if it's a pedestal seed.
Definitely not. That is probably the last thing on his mind there. I just hope that he flicks to 7 or 4 and then continues down south. It does look like that is going to be the play here.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot sab0tender hasn't done in this area that doesn't include the Bombos tablet. In fact, I think that's basically it.
Yeah,
He's even
looking
done.
at his heart count, he did almost find every single heart in the game. So his options are definitely running a bit low at this point.
And it looks like sab0tender is finally going to be making his way towards the Bombos tablet. A move that, unfortunately, didn't have the ability to do when it would have been convenient. A move I believe Yagamoth, or allowed Yagamoth to take this victory. So that is go mode, and sab0tender is also not very happy
No.
about that tablet. And we'll be clearing up Desert Palace now with the ability to actually run.
Yes,
And
unfortunately just a little bit too late here, but will be making his way to finish Desert Palace and thereafter onwards to the Gadon's Tower.
yeah. Now this was, I don't know if this was a quick desert. Oh, it was. So we'll be able to just grab the big key here. Doesn't even have to bother with the right side of the dungeon. While Yagamoth did actually have to do that earlier.
Yes, Yaga did actually full clear the Desert Palace, though nothing of value was inside, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. And sab0tender is opting not to use the mirror to just leave the dungeon.
Interesting.
But just a short jaunt to Land Molas, and then we're going to be heading up to Ganon's Tower. And considering it's a pretty free Ganon's Tower, let's hope sab0tender goes to the right side.
Yeah, let's just hope that he's not going to assume Yaga made like a crazy play in by like going full left immediately. sab0tender picking up his required small keys here, which are not actually randomized. If certain key items, no pun intended, are dropped by either enemies or hidden under pots, they will stay there in the randomizer for basically just for consistency's sake.
Yeah, let's hope that changes sometime soon. Get on it, Carcat.
It is actually an option within the enemy randomizer to shuffle enemy and pot content, and I do dare to say it does throw you off quite a lot because playing a lot of randomizer seeds as well as having played the vanilla game, you do kind of expect to find a certain small key under a certain pot, and then in the randomizer you lift the pot and it's not there, and you're like, oh yeah, wait.
Yeah, and it's even shuffled within the super tile, or super room or whatever it's called, as in like the big 4-room size block of rooms. So, like in
Yes, I
Swamp
know exactly
Palace,
what you mean.
yeah, like in Swamp Palace, there's the skull under the pot that you could potentially flood, but it could be in Randomizer, it could be potentially moved to one of the pots in the room south of it.
Yes, that also leads. I believe that is also in Swamp Palace, where it can be on a ledge in the big hub room, for lack of a better word, where you have to bomb open a wall, which is normally never even bombed open. It definitely makes you look at certain rooms very differently. But with that being said, sab0tender is entering the Turtle Rock Dark World portal here. We'll be heading on over to that Ganon's Tower, as we are potentially looking at a sub-2 here, at the very least.
Yeah, sub 2 should be free, provided sab0tender does go right. It is the more common strat to just hit those first 2 chests on the right side. You don't want to be one of those people who loses a race because you decided to deviate from the normal strats and everybody else got the freest Ganon's Tower in existence.
And it does look like sab0tender is going for the God Tower here.
No, sab0tender.
Oh no,
check
you
the
need
other
that key.
chest. Oh, you need a key. Oh, he's just gonna grab the key on the left side, even though.
Oh my goodness. Vanilla red mail. Kind of, sort of.
It's a room to the north.
Oh dear.
sab0tender not very happy about.
Leaving a trail of bombs here.
I think he's using Dark Magician strats.
Oh yeah, definitely. That is a nice throwback to some times past. Probably setting up for to collapse the tower to build his own villa, maybe on the top of Death Mountain.
Maybe it's like level 7 in Link's Awakening, where he's trying to break the support structure.
Yeah, in Eagle's Tower, I really enjoyed that dungeon. That was very, very cool design. So of course, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say we're making good time up Ganon's Tower so far.
Definitely, with that butter sword and silver arrows in hand, none of the enemies pose any real threat, and of course with almost the full 20 hearts as well.
And we're just past Ganon Ball Z, heading into the Gauntlet, which the damage of your sword isn't really the problem here.
No, definitely not. With both having Fire Rod as well as these Silver Arrows, of course, makes, barring any misfires, makes the gauntlet pretty free. Of
Yeah.
course, still BMOs on conveyor belts on ice is always a bad time.
Yeah. And when these Zzacs, or whatever they're called, decide to play Ring Around the Rosie with you, it's just not fun.
Yes, their movement path is completely random. Definitely one of the lesser fun enemies to fight here, as sab0tender opts to powder the fairy, or the bunny beam rather.
Yeah. If you powder it, you desync the landmola spawns in the room, because I guess the way it's programmed, they're like, you're in the super tile or whatever, and their timers are already ticking to pop out of the ground by the time you're in that room.
Yes, the RNG cycle already starts once you enter the room previous to the fight, but they don't come out of the ground until the Link Sprite is actually present in the same room.
Yeah. But if you do have Tempered Sword or Butter Sword, you can wait purposefully in that room prior, and then just charge your slash in the room, and they'll all pop out at the same time. And you can hit all three of them with a spin attack, taking away half their HP right off the bat. If you don't have, say, a lot of mana to spare or silver arrows.
sab0tender gets through the torch room with little trouble.
waiting for the torches to go out so he doesn't accidentally despawn Ganon's tower.
Yes, that is a very interesting quirk. If the door happens to close on the same frame that you transition to the second floor, you run the risk of despawning every single sprite in the remainder of the tower. Now, while that may sound favorable due to there won't be any enemies, it will remove the modern refight, which first of all makes it impossible to cross the gap unless you are inclined to hover. But more importantly, it will get rid of Aghanim, which and the death of Aghanim is the trigger required to open the Ganon fight. As we do see a very quick Moldon refight here. Opts to also skip the final chest in the game as well. Of course, again, we know that there is nothing that our runners can help us, as we did find both the level 4 sword as well as the red mail.
Yep, and if sab0tender plays his cards right, he can get a nice easy triple right off the bat. Oof, only a double, but not too bad.
Yes, this is definitely one of the getting consistent triples on the Aghanim 2 fight is one of the more difficult things to do due to the fact how the game handles the ricochet. It doesn't always do what you want it to do. But regardless of that, takes down Aghanim, will be into the Ganon fight as well shortly. Still on an easily sub 2 hour pace.
I like that swag bonk into the wall when you start the cutscene.
Artificially inflating his bomb counter, of course, as sab0tender is dropping into the Ganon fight here. Of course, with Gold Sword, this will pretty much be an easy breeze. But I won't give you the trifles. I will defeat you.
You know, I'm gonna say false on that one.
Yeah, I might have heard that joke before though, so a little bit of cheating, but Either way, as sab0tender already done with the first phase here, it is on to Ganon teleports. Thankfully, not too many this seed. Gets out the silver arrows for the final phaser. As usual, 4 arrows will do the job.
Yep, and sab0tender also missing out on the torch glitch, but again, it doesn't necessarily matter if he. Oh, it is interesting. While the Ganon teleports in phase 3 are fixed to the seed, it doesn't look like the Ganon teleports in phase 4 are fixed. But it doesn't.
I've not been paying attention too much to say whether or not that is true or false. But what I do know is true is that sab0tender will be getting an easy sub-2 as he finishes this seed with an official time of 1 hour 56:16. So again, GG to sab0tender for, regardless of the loss, still a pretty fast seed at 2 hours.
Yep, we'll see if sab0tender wants to come in for an interview. He says he will, and he'll be in here shortly.
It looks like he is in the waiting room. I shall drag him over. Good afternoon, sab0tender. GG's.
If you have push to talk on, it's not being pressed.
Oh no, I'm here. I think.
Okay.
Yes. Hello. Welcome.
Oh boy, man, did I blow it on that one?
Well, being a sub-2 hour runner still is nothing to sneeze at, of course. Going against the mammoth that is Yagamoth. But
yeah, I knew I was in tough for sure, but yeah, I mean sub-2, I'll still take it, but yeah, oh boy, I did not want to go fast in this one.
No, definitely the boots throwing you for a loop here. You, of course, opting to go into the Swamp Palace before checking the overworld.
Yeah, I was pretty set on dungeon diving, I guess, for this run. For whatever reason, I kept thinking, oh, I'll just keep doing that, and eventually I'm going to find what I'm looking for. And I just don't know why I didn't do Bombo's tablet. I think probably because when I did Purple Chest, did I not have Mirror? I can't quite remember, but ugh. Or did I even do Purple Chest?
I don't think you did.
No,
that's probably why.
Didn't
Yeah.
have the mirror. You collected the frog, and then saved and quit to the light world to deliver him. So that way you completely missed on the dark world side of.
Oh, that probably was the beginning of the end for me there. Ugh, that's too bad.
Yeah, for quite some time, you two were fairly even. I would say the biggest difference, the turning point of the match, was the fact that after finding the flute in Palace of Darkness, Yagamoth decided to activate it, which is, you did too, but he decided to go directly into the Mire area, which, as we know, had the mirror and it had the flippers. And so he had the mirror when he decided to do Village of Outcasts and was able to do all of that, dwarf, peg cave, purple chests, and then all the way into the Bombo's tablets, like the first time he was in Village of Outcasts after leaving Thieves Town.
Yeah, that explains why he was able to put up that time that he did. I mean, because it gave us everything kind of early on to do a lot of exploring, so it really opened up, and it was just, I mean, I felt like I was pretty much in go mode except for those boots for quite a while. I could have been, I guess, if I had picked up the boots earlier, I would have been able to kind of jet through a bunch of dungeons.
Yeah, we were, or at least I was a bit concerned about Yagamoth finding the fire rod, but he went directly to the Zora area right after finishing Ice Palace because it, was right there.
Yeah, I kind of thought that when I saw Fire Rod on the Zora Ledge, I thought that might be something to give me a leg up, and that it might be a place that Yaga might put off for a while. But as I kept looking for those boots and coming up dry, I was pretty sure I was falling behind every second, every chest that I was checking. But oh well.
Any other thoughts on this seed? Of course, it didn't go as optimally as you'd want, but if I do dare say, it was an amazing race. Was definitely both you as well as Yagamoth execution were quite on point this run.
Thanks. Yeah, I felt like my execution was actually not bad. I'm a little bit scrubby at times, but I felt like I was doing pretty good today. Oh, then to cap it off there, the Ganon's Tower key being like first chest there, that was just like perfect. It made sense why Yaga was able to do like a 120 even at the end there. It was just it worked out perfectly. I don't know. I don't really have too much else to say, I guess, about this one. It was, it was nice and open. We got to kind of explore, and lots of the world was open pretty quickly for us. I don't know. It was a good seed. I just kind of missed one location that kind of bit me in the butt. I guess GG's to my opponent. Yaga is a unbelievable beast at this game, so I know he's going to go far in the tournament. I will definitely watch the VOD back to see how our routes diverged here. So that'll be interesting.
Yes, the seed definitely gave you pretty much the keys to the world. And with that, if you have anything else to add? Or...
I'll just say that I want to thank you guys, Rubel and Stan, for doing comms here. That's much appreciated. And to my boy, Alan Heffley on tracker duty, thank you so much for that. And I guess anyone who is still watching, thank you for watching. And I think that'll do it for me.
All right, cool. Well, you obviously are going 1-1 after this race, but that doesn't really count you out. This tournament, you still have another 5 matches, and the cutoff is basically 5 and 2, and maybe some 4 and 3s might squeak through, but it's far from over for anybody in this tournament right now.
Definitely, we still have a lot of randomizer to go here. I will pull up the schedule here. If you are still not done watching Randomizer, at 6 p.m. we have Zeal versus Aoitivin on ALTTPR 3, and around 6:30 we'll start Illas versus Number Play, and yeah, we've got pretty much every hour a new race is going to start. So all I can recommend you is keep your watch on your follow list here on Twitch. And yeah, with that being said, thanks again to our tracker, Alan Heffley, our restreamer Data World, as well as my co-commentator Rubel for joining me on this exciting race.
Yep, and thank you to Stan, my co-commentator, and I guess if we have nothing else, we're just gonna shuttle you off to another race.
Very well. Then I shall take my leave. See you lads at a later time. Take care.
Yep. Goodbye.